Don't expect the Bidenomics messaging to make a return anytime soon after yesterday's numbers. We'll see. CPI is today. But here was The Godfather, Rick Santelli. You know The Godfather. His cri de coeur launched the Tea Party movement a generation ago.
Yes, why do I have to pay for my neighbor's remodeled bathroom?
He's still at it and still with the same vim and vigor, which is why we love Rick. Here's Rick going over the numbers and what they mean. Wait for the end of it, because this explains why 3/4 of the country is saying I'm in a worse position economically than I was pre-Biden.
313.216. That probably doesn't mean anything to you. It means something to me. That's the highest it's ever been. It's ever been. Now remember, Bureau of Labor Statistics brings out this number. Go to their website. When did COVID start? March of 2020? Okay, this is a decent number. That means Nov was the most updated we had prior to about 2 minutes ago. If you go to their website and you look at their CPI inflation calculator and you put in Feb of 2020, what you'll find is it takes $1.19 of Nov $23 to buy what bought $1 pre-COVID. Do it if you don't believe me.
Believe him. That's it. $1.19 of November 2023 dollars to buy what cost $1 in February of 2020. 19% across the board. And so even with the manipulated numbers where they extract food and energy costs because of volatility, sort of give you a rosy picture, the real world implications are people are losing ground, even with some wage increases over those years, not keeping up with the cost of the basics. That's why. For more on this in the context of previewing Monday's Iowa Caucus, fresh off of his conquest of CNN on Wednesday night, Bret Baier is the host of Fox News Special Report, weekdays 5 p.m. Chicago time, best-selling author of To Rescue the Constitution, George Washington and the Fragile American Experiment, and also The History Club, Duel Across Time, a graphic novel. Bret Baier is branching out. He's stretching the bounds of his artistic creativity. A graphic novel? What is next, Bret Baier? Blow art?
Maybe some clay figures.
Yes.
I don't know. The graphic novel is really fun, and kids 8 to 14. It's about history. It's about this adventure, and it actually really has done well. And parents like getting history in the minds of young people, so that's why I did it.
Good for you.
I'm looking forward to Bret Baier's big book of political prose. I want to see where you take this creativity. You're not just a button-down newsman. I like it.
It's I was trying to be a button-down newsman this week, and it's really interesting in that Iowa is fascinating. I think it's going to be a lot different than people think as far as what actually happens. Minus 14 is real. That's a real for a Monday show up for people. The organization of getting people out is going to be really, really interesting.
And so who do you think that dastardly cold weather benefits? Who does that extend the gap between Trump and the rest, or does it close it?
I think DeSantis, has a really good organization, but Trump has the momentum as far as people, numbers. Those polls, we've never seen polls like that heading into the caucuses. So I think that there's got to be, if it's going to shift, it would have to be a major shift. I think the real battle is between DeSantis and Haley, and if Haley somehow comes in second, it is really not a good thing for the DeSantis campaign.
Well, do you think then he'd consider dropping out, or he'd wait till after New Hampshire or South Carolina?
I talked to him before the town hall that we did this week, and the governor said, listen, let's schedule this thing in New Hampshire, and then let's do one in South Carolina. And I don't know if that was all bluster or not, but I don't think that the message would be that strong if you've bet all your chips on Des Moines and Iowa counties, and you come out third.
But if the polls are correct, Trump's on track to smash the Republican record for the largest victory margin in the history of the Iowa caucuses. And I think people are playing more into this weather. I mean, it's going to be cold, but Iowans are hardy, and it's not as if we haven't experienced that before.
That's true. And, his supporters, I will say, having met a lot of them on the trail over the past few days, are people who would walk over glass to go caucus. I mean, they kind of feel aggrieved and that the world is out to get the former president, and so they feel like it's their duty to make sure that Iowa stands up. So that's what I hear from them. And if I had to guess, I think that he's going to have a big win. Whether it's as big as those polls show, we'll see.
Yeah, and again, I mean the aggrieved is a good word in terms of the Trump voters feeling aggrieved sort of by transference. And right in the run up to the caucus, you've got more reason to be aggrieved. The circus around the closing arguments in the civil trial in New York, the information coming out about Fani Willis in Fulton County. I mean, that just gets people's dander up even more so.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it's one thing after another. I mean, it's not just one, and every day is another courtroom drama with the president actually going to all the courtrooms, because I think he sees a political advantage to talk to reporters outside of those. Listen, you guys know the scope of these things. There's a couple of them that are more serious than others, but especially the Manhattan civil fraud and some of the cases up in New York, I think there's a sense that it's a political element to it.
But don't you wonder what the Biden camp is thinking? I mean, you have President Trump. He did your town hall with Martha McCallum, then flew back to New York, and then was in court yesterday. I mean, he's got stamina and vigor, and Joe Biden's just barely hanging on.
Yeah, the Democrats I talked to in Iowa, they're concerned. They're really concerned. And I think you're going to start to see even more Democrats piping up. But I don't know where the shoe drops, like what happens, what's the next play. I don't see how it changes ahead of the convention.
So you and Martha were able to extract from Trump that he has selected his VP running mate in his own mind, assuming he's the nominee. Not surprisingly, he wouldn't tell you who that is. And then yesterday, Rand Paul said, I got a big announcement coming this morning. I mean, is it just an endorsement of Trump, or what do we expect?
Rand Paul. I guarantee you it's I don't think that Rand Paul is the VP.
Okay.
I think that it was interesting that he said he had made up his mind, that he has a person. I mean, I think that's part of the intrigue. It's obviously not a done deal here, and he's got to get the nomination. But should he? That's an interesting thing. I don't think in the big picture VPs make that big of a difference. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it would this time. I think, Rand Paul, if he endorsed DeSantis, that would be a crazy thing. But if I had to guess, he's going to endorse Trump.
Yeah. Now, you were with President Trump the other night. Have you noticed, was his demeanor different? Has he matured over the past 4 years? Is there anything that
big time? The demeanor
different?
was definitely different. I can't talk about the maturity level or what is going to come tomorrow. We're one true social post from a change in demeanor. But I think that what we saw was not what we were expecting to see. We were expecting to see the full pushback, and we were getting ready and kind of ready to go down all kinds of rabbit holes and push back all this time. And he came with more of a general election pitch and demeanor, and we pushed back on a number of things about political violence, about debt, about emoluments clause, all kinds of different things. But his overall pitch, and I don't know whether it was that his mother-in-law had passed, it did seem to affect him actually backstage a little bit. Whether that changes his tone, but he was in, it seemed to me, general election mindset.
Mm-hmm. The border issue. I mean, Trump during your town hall said, look, we've got no choices. There has to be a mass deportation effort initiated. DeSantis, in his debate with Nikki Haley, said something akin to that. Where do you think the Republicans, on the Hill are, particularly in the Senate, on real system change when it comes to immigration if they were able to secure the presidency and the Congress?
I think that there's a blueprint. There is a model that they could get to something that everybody agrees on. It has to look a little bit like H.R. 2, the House bill that passed. It has to have that kind of thing. Right now, they're just around the edges trying to get this supplemental deal done, and I'm not sure that that's going to come around. I mean, there's some real pushback already to House Speaker Johnson, and he could be in jeopardy, just like the previous House Speaker McCarthy, because these conservatives are just not liking how he's operating so far on the budget. So I think there is a path forward, but you would need all three branches.
And with respect to, just going back to Biden for a second, Jill Biden was out talking about Hunter and the reelection campaign and so forth. Hunter pleading not guilty yesterday, trial being set for June. I mean, just setting aside sort of the legal strategy for a second, the political pressure from the White House on Hunter has to be, you have to deal this out and be done. We can't have you on trial weeks before the convention in the late summer of this year.
Yeah, and I think that the pitch that that Hunter Biden is he's suffering, and the Joe Biden soundbite. I mean, it's designed to do what it does, but it is really a negative politically for that trial to happen right before the election in the summer, right before the convention. Just like the trial that will likely come in D.C. for the January 6th against Trump, that could be September. You're talking about two sides of the coin here, two sides of the aisle that will have big things that will be covered in a legal sense right before a general election. And so that's why there's 60% of people that say don't choose either one of them.
He is Bret Baier, host of Fox News Special Report, weekdays, 5 p.m. Chicago time, best-selling author of To Rescue the Constitution, George Washington and the Fragile American Experiment, and his new graphic novel, The History Club, Duel Across Time. Bret, thank you as always.
We'll see you guys.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
My son was saying, Mom, why are you paying so much for this? The supplement store has the exact same thing. And I said, no, they don't. Because he was telling me that they have similar products as Balance of Nature. But then when he came over to my